Yo, what's going on, guys? So today we're going to cover basically your framework to your sales journey. Now, what I want you to understand is your first 0 to 5K month is going to come from understanding a framework and doing that framework well. It's not going to come from us learning fancy objection handling, understanding the psychology of prospects, all this advanced stuff. You're not going to get anywhere focusing on that at the start. It'll come. The main focus at the start is to learn a simple framework, have it down packed, follow it well, and understand what you're doing on that call. Right now, the better we can do that, the better we can understand that, the better we're going to get at sales, the better structure and fundamentals or foundation we'll have. We can then build off of. Right. What I'm going to do is cover your framework today. Now, there's three main pillars behind it. First is disarming. Second is creating the gap, and then third is presenting the solution. Right. Now, if you look at all three and we'll go here, right, these are the three main things. Now, when we look at disarming, right, breaking into three, look at disarming. It's broken up into three main things. Now, firstly, what is disarming? I think the definition talks about something to do with like having a gun. So like, let's say someone has a gun and you take the gun off them, you disarm them. But in other words, prospect comes onto a call, guard up, right? Now, when the guard is up, how are we going to connect with them in any way? How are we going to actually touch their emotional side of things and like actually get them to open up? We're not. So our first initial goal is to disarm the prospect, get them to be comfortable, because what do you think happens when they're comfortable? They're going to share things with us. And when they share things with us, we get to understand their internal problems, what's kept them there, all of these things that we need to understand. Okay, and it's broken up into three main things. We disarm by body language, tone, and our questions. Now, body language is pretty simple, right? We're not going to get on the call like this, closed off, really up close. We're not going to be here, laid back, chill like that. Nice, like energy is here, focus is here, my attention is here, but it's nice, it's calm, right? Now, tone as well, similar to what I'm speaking now. We don't want to get on the call going, hey man, what's going on? What's going on? All this, like, how are you? Good to see you. Like, hey everyone, everyone's good. Like, none of that tone. We also don't want to speak to them with like, yep, what's going on, man? How are you? Like sharp, like blunt. We don't want that, right? It's pretty simple. It's like think of it as like a warm, like welcoming kind of tone. Like, hey man, what's going on? How are you? It's like a smile, super light, super chill. Okay. That tone, if you think about it, like if someone speaks to you like that, makes you feel, oh, this guy's kind of chill. He's all right. Nothing to worry about, right? Like calms down the internal. That's it, what our tone is doing, right? As well as our questions. Now, we don't want to ask stupid questions. We don't want to get into, rants about how the weather is and, all of these fucking random bullshit, right? Simple questions, right? That are established in the framework, right? Can you hear me, see me, all good? Whereabouts are you calling from? How's your 2026 treating you? Now, these are very quick, right? Very quick questions, right? Nothing fancy, nothing crazy, okay? Mainly just get a little bit of like a conversation going before we do get into things. So it doesn't, because if we just go straight into like understanding their goals, it's going to feel awkward. It's going to feel weird, right? So we don't want to do that, okay? So it's broken up into these three things. Now, the gap is the second stage of it. What is the gap? So we go back to the sheet, right? What is the gap? Gap is broken up into two main things, right? Goals and current situation. Now, in here is the gap, okay? Now, the goals, or in other words, North Star, is us painting the picture of what they want to accomplish, the position they want to get into in life, right? That's the top of the gap. This part here is about 25-30% of the actual gap. It's important to establish early on, it gives us direction, but we're not going to create any urgency or any change if we highlight and focus on their goals more than we focus on this. We understand that. It's about 25%. Okay, is this. Okay. Horrible arrows. Apologies. Hope you guys don't have, what's the word? OCD. Now, in here, current situation, and inside of the gap, we're going to find and establish two main components, two main things. One is going to be pain. So put that here. And the second one is going to be, glitched, limitations. Okay. So these are the two main things that we are going to establish inside of the gap here, right? Inside of the gap are these two main things. Okay. Now, what is pain? Pain is their pain points. So the person or the prospect we're speaking to is on the call for a reason. They're not here just to learn more or this or that, fucking nothing. They have a certain pain or problem within their current situation that they're on the call to fix, solve, change. Okay. So you have to understand that, and you have that leverage to then find their pain points. I want to ask you, where do you think change is made? When they feel good up here, or when they feel shit and they have pain? When they feel shit, when they have pain. Okay. So we have to establish these. Now, this can be, them not liking the amount of money they make, they're not liking their body, their confidence because of not liking their body. All of these things are pain points. Inside the gap, we find their pain points. We also find their limitations. Realistically, these people have not thought about this for a day. They have thought about this problem specifically, whether they're overweight or whether they're not making enough money, for a while, right? The question we have to understand and ask ourselves is why are they still in the same position 6 months, a year, 2 years plus from now, right? Or for within the last 6 months, 2 years, whatever their time length has been, why are they still in the same position? In other words, what is holding them back or limiting them from doing something about it and actually getting results and getting out of their position, right? So when we create a strong gap, we're going to uncover these two things here, right? And these are our leverage points. So let me put a text in. These are our leverage points on the call. Their pain and their limitations, right? Whether that's their limitations are, limiting beliefs, or not taking responsibility. They have they're skeptical of everything. They are, what is it? Patterns. They have their patterns with how they do things are off, right? Whatever it may be, whatever is limiting them in life, we're going to uncover them, and we can use them as leverage to help them change. Okay, so we create a gap based off of their goals, right? So their goals and their current situation. This creates the gap. When we dive into the current situation, as this is about 75%, right? When we dive into their current situation, we're going to uncover these things here. Okay, we're going to uncover these things here. Okay, so their pain points and what's holding them back, what's limiting them. Okay, so we go back to the framework here. We disarm them. We create the gap. Okay, now actually let me get this up right here. Now, as I said, goal, current situation, and then inside is pain and limitations. Now, what I want you to understand is these two here are crucial, right? The prospect that we're speaking to is only going to buy if they are in buying state, also known as the buying pocket. Okay, let me make that nicer. Buying state. Now, if you think about it, you get on a call with someone and you go, hey mate, what's got you on the call today? Yeah, I want to lose weight. Okay. And I guess, have you done anything about it? No, I haven't. Okay, so this is what we can do. We can help you. Let's do it. Realistically, there is no urgency or drive to change. So he's not going to, right? Meaning he's not in a buying state. When we firstly disarm him, so make him feel comfortable, right? So he's willing to open up and share. And then we create a very strong gap where we really establish their goals and really bring down their pain and their current situation, right? We get them to change because they don't want to remain in this, right? So when we create the gap and they feel this gap in here, right? They feel the gap, they are going to be in a state of change, suggestibility is what we call it, state of suggestibility, meaning they're in the buying pocket, meaning that we can actually pitch them and get an outcome, right? So our goal is to create a very strong gap where the prospect that we're talking to becomes or gets into a state of buying power, where he's like, yeah, I cannot stay in the same position. I'm willing to change and invest in myself. Okay, these are crucial. Now, once we've established that, once we know they're in a buying pocket, a buying state, now I don't want you to think like, oh, Connor, how do I know he's in a buying state and all these things? They're good questions, don't get me wrong, but I want you to focus on this is the goal, not necessarily how to do it, but understanding why we do it. Why do we build the gap? Well, because we want to establish the North Star, the pain, and why we want to establish their North Star and their current situation. Why? So we can establish their pain and their limitations. Why do we do that? So that we can get them in a buying state. Because why do we do that? So that we can pitch them properly. Okay. I want you to understand what you're doing before you ask how to do it. Okay. Now, once we've got them in this state, we can now pitch them properly. Now, no prospect is the same, meaning we're not going to pitch every prospect in the same way. When we ask the question, what do you feel like you would need from us to succeed? Right? They are then going to say, for example, I need more guidance. I need this. I need that. Some may be similar, some may be different. In the pitch, we're going to tailor it to what they want specifically, right? So if they want more coaching, more one-on-one, or more guidance, when we pitch, we're going to focus heavily on the guidance, the coaching, and support that we're going to give them. Because what we're doing is we're bridging the gap. So this is the gap, and our pitch is bridging it together, right? So we have to make sure that it fits what they actually want. Okay, so we go back to the framework and we walk through it. First, we disarm it. Hey, John, can you hear me, see me all good? Super light, easy tone. Perfect. Whereabouts are you calling from? Nice, man. How's your 2026 treating you so far? Energy is nice, comfortable, opening, welcoming. Now we're going to look into creating the gap. So what we want to do is firstly establish have they watched the prequel content. Now, the reason we ask this question is to see have they actually taken the time out of their day to watch the content, as well as that is what has stood out to them. Why are they on the call in the first place, right? Like understand what they're connecting and resonating with, okay? So what we want to do is, did you get a chance to watch the videos that John sent through? Now we want to ask this. This is part of disarming as well. They didn't bore you to death, did they? Little joke gets him loose. Nah, man, they didn't. That's what we say, for example, right? Sweet. And I guess like what stood out for you, made you want to book a call, take things a bit further. Now, we ask this question so then we can transfer into asking about his goals. Because this is him speaking about goals indirectly, and then we're going to get him to speak about his goals directly, right? So what stood out within the videos that made you want to book a call, take things a bit further? Yeah, I saw that a lot of people having the freedom and this, whatever. Sweet. And you seeing people achieve that freedom, I guess for you, man, like what would you be looking to accomplish doing something like this, right? This is where we establish their North Star. So what they want to accomplish, okay? Now, they're going to say something like, yeah, I want the freedom and I want this and I want that, depending on what you're selling, of course, right? But they're going to say something along those lines. They most likely won't be specific with the goals. We want them to be specific, meaning we want specific goals, meaning we have to break it down and probe on it until we get specific goals. In other words, get tangibles, okay? So we're going to break it down. So we're going to get context on their goals. How we do this is like, let's say someone says they want freedom. Yeah, man, what does freedom look like for you? It looks like this, it looks like that. Okay. And in terms of, you said that you wanted to earn more money. Like, what does more money mean, right? Because like, think about it. No one comes to us wanting less money, right? So like more money, what does that actually look like? Oh, 10K a month. Okay. And like, what would 10K a month do for you? It would do this, it would do this, it would do this. Great. We've broken down goals. We have a clearer, tangible vision on their goals. Now, we're going to go through two things. One, how important are these goals for you? And two, what's the driver or the why for accomplishing the goals? So this is how important are these goals for them, right? And by the way, the reason we understand how important they are for them is sometimes people will say that their goals are super important, but they haven't done anything about them for 6 months, a year. So we can ask this to see how important they are for them, because then we can potentially contradict them when we're going through their current situation and why they haven't done anything. Because we can say, yeah, your goals are so important to you. I guess like, how come it's taking you a year to actually go through and actually put some time and effort into them? Again, you wouldn't say it like that specifically, but you get the actual goal of us doing that. Okay. Now we look at this as well, the what's driving them frame, right? Ignore the way in the back. Now this frame is their why, their driver. No one has a goal, right? No one has a goal without a reason for accomplishing the goal. And if they have a goal and there's no reason for it, they're never going to accomplish it. This is the why frame. Super simple, right? So once we go through this part here, like how important are these goals, in terms of like you getting the freedom and achieving 10K a month, for example, how important are they for you, man? Yeah, they're everything, man. They mean a lot to me. I love it, man. I guess like, do you mind if I make a suggestion, right? If we look at some of the most successful people in the world, as cheesy as it sounds, they're all connected to their why and the significance behind why they do what they do. Now, I want to break this down specifically, right? Make a suggestion, asking permission to give him a different lens, a different frame, right? Or to open up to us, essentially, right? Permission to open up to us, okay? Now, this sentence here, if we look at some of the most successful people, what do you think that's actually doing? I'll give you a second. When we say, if we look at some of the most successful people, what do you think that's actually doing when we say that? If you got it right or you didn't, I'll tell you anyway. It's us putting him in the mindset of successful people. He's looking how successful people look. Why is it important? Because successful people will change, they'll invest in themselves, they'll do these things. That's what we want for him. He has to look at it in a successful person's mindset, not a scarce or a, someone that's not where they want to be person's mindset. Okay. So we're getting him to think in this version of himself, him being successful. As cheesy as it sounds, they're all connected to their why and the significance behind why they do what they do. So if successful people understand their why, what do you think he should be able to do? Understand his why as well. For example, for me, now here's where you share your personal, like why, a personal experience for you. Like, yeah, I do it. This is why I do everything, because it's for my family, because of this, whatever it may be. Actually share a personal why. Actually make it come from somewhere like that connects with you, resonates with you. Because the stronger you share your why, the stronger energy you bring to him, he's going to give you a better answer, right? Now as well, because we're sharing a personal why and we're giving a bit of context about us, he has no choice but to do the same for us. Okay. And so once we share that, that why, we transition it. And I guess for you, man, like what's actually driving you to want to accomplish this goal, whatever the goal is. Okay. Sweet. He's going to give us a good answer. And then we're going to transition it into, that's the top of the gap. Now we're going to transition it into the current situation, so the bottom of the gap. So we'll ask him, I appreciate you sharing that, man, right? But for example, he gives us a good answer. Say, I appreciate you sharing that, man. I can see it means a lot for you. I guess, and then we ask him, I guess, what shifted recently that made now a better time for you to get into something like this? Super light. Why? Super light. Right? We're not trying to do anything crazy at all. We're just asking what kind of shifted. Then we're going to get into current situation. So what are you doing for work at the moment? Build it up. Build the current situation up. What are you doing for work? Do you enjoy it? How long have you been there for? What does the work actually look like? Like, what are you doing day to day? Build it up. Really get a gauge of everything he's doing at the moment in the current situation, right? If it's for fitness, what are you doing for your training, your nutrition? How consistent have you been with it? What results have you got? This is like build up the current situation, what it looks like, to then expose the gap. Now, exposing it is also creating a problem within the current situation or finding the problem. So if it's, if we're selling an offer to do with making money, right? Well, chances are the problem is going to come from how much he's making currently because he wants to make more. So a question we can ask to expose that is obviously not to the last cent, man, but like what is your work bringing in for you per month at the moment? Oh, 3.5K a month. And are you happy with that? No, I'm not, man. Why not, man? Break it down and really draw down the current situation, really bring out the pain and all of these things, right? For example, if it's fitness, do you feel like, I guess, like with your current process and your current structure, do you feel like you are on track to accomplish your goals? Nah, man. Now, if he says yes, like he's an idiot because like he's been doing it for maybe quite a while, right? So like clearly it's not done anything for him, right? And you can reword this question if you feel like it doesn't land properly if you're selling fitness, but just to give you a guideline, right? He'll say, "No, I don't, man." Then you're gonna say, "What do you feel has been missing?" So if you ask this question for fitness, what do you feel has been missing? If it's to do with selling, like a program that helps him make money, for example, like trading or whatever it may be, I don't know. Then you're gonna ask, why is that like that? You're gonna ask this one. So help me understand, man. Like you're making 3.5K a month. You're not enjoying your position. It's really taking a toll on you mentally and all these XYZ, whatever you shared. I guess like, have you done anything to improve your situation? Now here's where we're gonna find what's held them back, right? Find their limitations. And we want to isolate the limitation. So we want to understand what it is that's held them back, whether it's fear, skepticism, lack of priority, no responsibility, whatever it may be. Find it, isolate it, so focus on it, help them overcome it, which I'll share. We'll go through role plays and you understand how, but help them overcome those problems, I guess, internally. Because once they overcome them, what do you think the outcome's going to be? You're going to be ready to buy. High chance. Okay, so we find out what's held them back, and then we go into it, we dive into it. We find it out, we help them overcome it, and then once we help them overcome it, we present the solution. So we want to position what we're selling as the gap, right? We've created a big gap. We want our offer to bridge that gap. So they feel like if they go over this bridge, they're going to get to the outcome they want, right? So we're going to ask them, I'm just going to word it out, make sure we have it. What do you feel like you... What do you feel like you need from us to... What do you feel like you would need from us to succeed? Right? Simple question like that, right? And he's going to say this, he's going to say that, and then you're going to position the offer, right, to cross that bridge. So listen, man, I do believe what we do can actually help you. Reason is, you're in a position where we've worked with many others similar, in a tough position, not doing the work they want to, not in the position they want to be in. Yet you have the right mindset, and I can see that you do want to take this further and you're serious about it. Have you got a pen and paper? What I'm going to do is break down the exact process of how we're going to get you to your goals, and then you go through the pitch. Okay, simple framework, simple understanding. What I want you to do is break this down in your own version. So like read over it, right? You're going to have a call to compare the two. So you have a call as well as a framework so you can compare them together, right? Because this is going to be your ticket to your first 5K in closing, in sales. And then once you understand that, you get good at this framework, you understand why you're doing these things, what your outcomes will be once you create a gap, what their answers may be when you ask certain questions. Like when you actually start to think deeper, it's like, why am I doing this? What outcome am I going to get by doing this? You start to think deeper, right? When we're at that stage, then we can go into really advanced training. So advanced objection handling, psychology of someone, contradicting them, cognitive distortion and stuff, like advanced stuff, right? That we're getting to soon. But for now, it's like really focus on this framework, get a great understanding, role play it multiple times, get the feel for it, and we'll really focus on like overcoming their limitations. So in this instance here, the problem and their limitations, we'll focus on role plays and on calls of how to deal with them, right? Don't focus too heavily on what do I do, like how do I do this, Connor? We'll get to it, right? And we'll go on calls, we'll role play it, but really just focus overall on the framework, what you're actually doing on it, etc., etc. Okay. Hope that makes sense. Any questions, of course, shoot me a message. Otherwise, keep going.